Hello folks, I'm John Myrie and welcome to the Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. On this week's show, we have reports and tips from TJ Hansen down at Hayward Bait and Bottle, and then we talk fishing with fishing guide Kyle Sorensen. Lots to cover on this week's show, all coming up right after these messages.
Enjoy the rest of summer and all of fall while claiming the lowest prices of the year on remaining 2026 boats from Hayward Powersports. The 2027s are arriving and we've slashed the pricing on remaining 26 models. Choose a new Lund boat, built by fishermen for fishermen. Pick up a Tracker, America's #1 selling aluminum fishing boat. Enjoy family fun on the best-selling Sun Tracker pontoon, or step up to the luxury, comfort, and quality of a Bennington pontoon. Get the lowest prices of the year at Hayward Powersports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77.
The Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau in Sawyer County, Wisconsin welcomes you to our Northwoods hometown. No matter the season, no matter the activity, you'll always be surrounded by our great outdoors. What more could you ask for in a vacation destination? Woods, waters, world-class events. Contact us for information on lodging, dining, attractions, events, trail conditions, and more. Order your free vacation guide and start planning your getaway today. Visit us at haywardlakes.com or call 1-800-724-2992.
Riding along in my automobile.
Bumping into things unexpectedly? Make your first choice for collision repair. Ernie's Auto Body, featuring the most advanced collision repair facility in Northwest Wisconsin. With a state-of-the-art spray bake down draft paint booth for that better-than-new finish, laser technology for precision frame alignment, loaner cars available, computerized estimates, written guarantees, and documented unmatched customer service, the clear choice is Ernie's Auto Body, south of Hayward on Highway 63 and Nursery Road, where quality is no accident.
Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering welcomes you to stop by for their great lunch menu. And while you're there, Lynn's also has a great selection of custom cut meats and sausages, as well as many varieties of snack sticks, jerky, fresh cheese curds, and much more. Lynn's is open Mondays through Fridays from 9 to 5:30 and 9 to 4 on Saturdays. Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering in Hayward.
Today, anglers fish longer. Today, anglers fish harder. Today, anglers rely more than ever on their electronics. It all comes down to catching more fish, and today, anglers rely on Amped Outdoors lithium batteries, period. Visit ampedoutdoors.com today to power your outdoor experience.
We're recording this week down at Hayward Bait and Bottle. I got TJ in here, and TJ, I know you get out there doing a bunch of fishing here and there, and you know, it's cooled down. Water temperatures, I was out last night on a small lake, I had 73 degrees. So it's cooled down a bunch out there. That should kind of set us up for that late August or even going into September bite, I hope.
I will, yeah, 100%. As those water temps cool down, the fish get more aggressive, and it gets to be a lot of fun out there.
Yeah, the one problem we got is that lakes are really, really forage rich. Lots of bug hatch stuff up still in there. There's lots of frying minnows, and usually that means they eat. They're active, but the bite windows could be pretty short because they can fill up pretty quick.
100%. A lot of the bites you're going to get, they're going to stare at it for a long time. I noticed that the other day of catching bluegill on my live scope. It was they just sit there and sit there and sit there before they actually finally commit to it.
You have more than one down there doing it, or because usually when you get a bunch of them down there, one of them is going to get greedy and grab it.
That was a big difference. If there was only one, they would sit there a lot longer. If there was 3 or 4 or 5 of them, they'd get really aggressive and start getting competitive.
That's exactly the same thing with any fish out there, whether it's walleyes or smallmouth or largemouth. If you got more than one looking at it, somebody's going to get a little greedy and want to zoom in and get it. And a lot of times on that live scope, you can watch them come. One's coming from 5, 6, 7 feet away, just ripping in there to grab it, you know?
Yeah, they'll watch one look at it, and then they'll just run over there and steal it. It's kind of fun to watch.
As far as walleyes, and there's still guys that want to go after walleyes out there right now. And, this is the time of year where a lot of fish are suspended. You can go after them trolling. But, you had some guys reported that were catching them on, like, flicker shads casting for them.
Correct. They're starting to move in a little more shallow, especially on the clearer bodies of water. People are catching them on the Couture, casting a Berkeley shadow reps, and they were catching them in about 25 feet of water, but they're coming up and hitting them.
Well, they'll travel up. That's the one rule that a lot of people need to remember is that most of these fish, they'll feed up. They don't feed down, so you don't want to be fishing under the fish, even crappies or bluegills.
Correct, 100%. You're way better off being on top of them. A lot of their eyes are actually angled up a little bit, so they can see bait better above them than they can below them.
How about the bass fishing? I know you do quite a bit of bass fishing. Start with smallmouth.
Smallmouth have been really good. They're moving up shallow. They're in about 15, 20 feet of water on the rocks. There's a lot of them. The small ones, there's a bunch of them. The big ones, you're still going to find them. The best way to do it is drive out your boat and use the sign imaging. Look for big schools of bait. You'll find big schools of bait just randomly throughout the lake, and then that's where the big bass are going to be chasing those bait around.
They're usually out there suspended then.
The big ones, yes.
And if you're dealing with bass in the reservoirs or rivers, now they're going to be a little shallower. We've talked about that before. But, they don't seem to go as deep, although they will sometimes in them.
Yeah, there's a lot more work for any current fish to chase bait, so they typically sit and wait for something to drift in their face, and you got to get pretty close to them in order for them to commit. Yeah, and that dark water and dark water lakes, I mean, they tend to be really tight to shore sometimes. How about largemouth? Largemouth are in any weeds you can find, they'll be largemouth. A lot of topwater action. A lot of people are ripping weightless flukes above the weeds and getting some really nice topwater bites. There's a lot of different ways to catch them, and there's a lot of big ones out there. Yeah, in the simplest way, if you don't want to get complicated, we've said this before, just rig up a 5-inch Senko weightless and wacky rig it. 100%. That's the easiest way by far to catch them. And I haven't heard much on the musky fishing out there, and usually that'll start to pick up about now. These fish, the water temperature is getting down into that preferred range they like right now. It is. A lot of fish are starting to chase. I'm getting a lot more people coming in the shop talking about that they got 4 followers but couldn't get anything to commit, or they're catching bluegill and a muskie tried to eat one of their bluegill. It's been a lot more stuff like that. So it's a good sign for the muskie fishermen. Well, some of that following stuff is related to pressure too, because you start out on a lake that there's never no pressure on it, and you throw a buck that they don't follow it, they just eat it. Mm-hmm. And then it gets to where they follow it, and hopefully you don't get to the point where they don't follow it, because they're getting so educated, and at that point they don't want nothing to do with it. Yeah, 100%. If you're getting a lot of followers, try switching up your colors a little bit. Typically that can help you get more fish from followers to committers. That's a good way to do it. Or just like a stop and go. If you could see it following you a ways out, just kill it and then burn it really fast. And typically that'll get them to chase that thing and smash it. And if that don't work, one thing I found when you have this extreme periods of stable weather and bright sunny days is at this time of the year from mid-August through early September, try night fishing them, because that takes away, the boat traffic out there is a big factor. I mean, it really spooks the fish, all fish. It can affect the fishing. 100%. The more boat traffic there is, the more boat-shy fish get, and the more boat-shy fish get, the harder they are to catch. When they can, especially those clear lakes, when they can see your boat from 30-plus feet away, they're not going to want to go by a fishing boat, and they can tell. That's one thing that forward-facing sonar or live scope really can educate people on, is how these fish behave and react. If you're out there ice fishing, for instance, and somebody drives by with a snowmobile, those fish scatter. They go quick. So, and that sound travels through water at, 5 times at least the speed that it does through air. It's just unbelievable how fast it travels in water. So, and it can go a long ways, too. So, sound is a factor. 100%. That's why a lot of the smaller lakes, you're better off taking a kayak or something smaller compared to taking, I have a 21-foot Triton. I bring that out there, and a lot of those fish recognize the fact that that's a big boat, and that big boat means probably a fisherman. I don't know if they're smart enough to think that out, but they just learn instinctively to avoid trouble or danger. Anyway, northern pike fishing. Let's talk about that real quick. There's plenty of pike out there. Want the bigger ones, you want to try to concentrate a little bit deeper? Correct. The big pike, they're going to go out deep, and they're going to seek stabler, colder water. So you're best just fishing deep weed edges, like 15 to 30 feet of water on those weed edges. Small pike, though, they're going to be aggressively feeding on anything and everything in those weeds up shallower. Yeah, and those smaller ones easier to catch, and they're actually good table fare. There's not a lot of meat on the smaller ones, but you can fillet them out and get the Y bones out of them. As far as other fishing going on, heard anybody on the streams trout fishing at all? I tried a little bit. I haven't really heard much other than people mousing brown trouts in the Namakagon, but they're still tough. I've been struggling to find them myself, but I have heard people catch some really nice brown trout, and it's typically at night. And lastly here, we're not that far away from the first hunting seasons, and bow season especially. Maybe, I know John here is pretty busy getting gear ready and bows and stuff, and if you need something, you got just about everything in stock here. Oh, yeah. If you need anything hunting-wise, we got it. We got everything from targets to archery equipment to guns to ammo. We got everything you need.
and for fall fishing, everything there. Well, TJ, 100%. I want to thank you greatly for taking the time here.
Yeah, no problem. You have a great day.
Well, folks, we need to take a break right now and hear from some of the fine sponsors that bring this show to you every week. When we come back, we'll be talking to Hayward Area Fishing Guide Kyle Sorensen, so stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hayward Bait and Bottle is your one-stop for the Hayward area's largest selection of rods, reels, lures, fishing electronics, boating supplies, and they've now expanded their selection of soft plastic bass and walleye baits. No matter what you're fishing for, at Hayward Bait and Bottle, you'll find everything you'll need for a successful season. And while you're there, in their bottle shop, you'll find a full selection of beer, wine, and liquor, too. And also, don't forget, now they carry Shoremaster docks, lifts, and accessories at Hayward Bait and Bottle. There's no time like the present to explore Hayward, Wisconsin, one of the Midwest's most popular vacation destinations. With crystal clear lakes for water sports and fishing, miles of trails for riding snowmobiles, ATVs, cross-country skiing, hiking, and mountain biking, this area is buzzing with activity year-round. Combined with charming local shops and a variety of Northwoods dining options, Hayward is certain to offer both adventure and relaxation for everyone. Plan your trip today and find everything you need on the Hayward Area Chamber of Commerce website. From events and attractions to local dining, shopping, and lodging, visit haywardareachamber.com and start your next adventure now.
Have some UTV fun in the sun with savings up to $4,000 or financing as low as 0% at Hayward Power Sports. The Polaris All-Out Summer Sales Event is the perfect time to take yours home. Offers vary by model, but a prime example is the 2026 Polaris Ranger XP1000 Northstar with a $3,000 rebate or 1.99% financing for 36 months. This machine is the top of the line with a factory-installed cab system including a tip-out windshield and power front windows. Plus, control your comfort with factory-installed heat and AC. Yes, AC. Choose a machine to fit your needs and the offer that fits your pocketbook. Polaris RZR is a machine for adrenaline junkies to push the limits. Polaris Ranger is the ultimate workhorse for the toughest jobs. And Polaris General is the best of both worlds, built with task-to-trail versatility, ready to work or play. Plus, Hayward Power Sports has a machine that started it all, the legendary Polaris Sportsman ATV. Have fun in the sun with your new Polaris today at Hayward Power Sports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77.
See dealer for complete program details. Always wear a helmet, never drink and ride.
In the Northwoods, a lake property is more than just a cabin. It's where memories are made. If you're buying lakefront property, you want someone who understands what makes each lake special. And if you're selling, your property deserves more than just a sign in the yard. It deserves its story told. I'm Megz Steinmetz with Real Estate by Megz, a national 30 under 30 realtor, lifelong angler, and a Northwoods lake specialist. Because no two lakes are the same and neither are the properties. Find me online or on social media, Real Estate by Megz. That's Megz with a Z.
Welcome back to another segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors, and this part of the show is brought to you by the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau. For more information on lodging and vacationing here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out their website at haywardlakes.com. Well, folks, one of the guys that get on here quite often is Hayward Area Fishing Guide Kyle Sorensen. Had a chance to catch Kyle on his cell phone the other night and talk about the fishing lately and what's coming up and a lot more. Kyle, good to have you on the show here again.
Hey, thanks for having me back on.
Water temperatures have finally started to cool down a little bit out there. They're still fairly high, but I guess the guys are starting to get back out there after muskies again.
Yeah, we're kind of coming down off that. We had some stuff up in the 80s. We're getting down into the 76, 77 range on a lot of our bigger bodies of water and getting down to where we can target those fish. And I think, honestly, it's making all the fish a little happier without it being so hot.
Yeah, none of them, it's not good on any of them when it gets that hot. You start getting lower oxygen levels and everything else out there. And, coming up into that surface, they're cooler down below, but they come up in that surface temperature. It's kind of a shock factor on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
As far as the baits and what's been working on the muskies out there, this time of year, generally it's a lot of bucktails and sometimes topwaters, isn't it?
Yeah, bucktails and topwaters are definitely in play. Mostly, more than anything, fast-moving stuff. It doesn't matter so much what it is, more so that you're keeping it moving. These fish are moving fast, and you got to move your baits fast. We've been catching a lot of fish on rubber. We've been catching plenty of fish on bucktails. But the main thing is just is to be keeping those baits moving fast.
I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make, is the speed factor. I mean, whether it's fishing too fast for walleyes or smallmouth bass or too slow for muskies. Sometimes the old saying, speed kills, is actually a truth factor when it comes to muskies a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not all the time that you have to be moving your baits really quickly. And, there is such a thing as too fast. But during this midsummer time period, it definitely helps you moving your stuff pretty fast. And that's just something I've been finding lately here, that the fish like some speed because, it just, once they commit to something that's really cranking along pretty quick, once they're committed to that, they just can't help themselves but to bite.
Well, when it comes to baits, other baits too, like jerk baits and minnow baits, that's another factor too, is that I've noticed over the years. You tell people that twitch a minnow bait, for instance, and most of them it's a pull stop thing, and the more spastic and erratic you can make that bait, it seems like the more likely it's going to get nailed by a muskie.
Yeah, absolutely, and with that kind of stuff, the pauses are key, and that's a great example of something that doesn't need to be moved crazy fast, but when you are moving it, you want to be snapping that rod nice and hard. I always tell people you want to hear the line singing when you're snapping it. You want to be hearing that line zip across the water, and even though it's only moving a foot or 2 feet at a time, you want to move that distance in a hurry.
Yeah, you find that pretty much true even when you're fishing the smaller baits for walleyes and smallmouth.
Yeah, a lot of reaction type stuff. If you're fishing plastics, absolutely. I mean, there's a time and a place for everything, and it's like anything in fishing. It's always, well, you got to either move it fast or you got to move it slow, or you got to, everybody's got their idea. But I think a lot of these things, when the fish are negative or neutral, I really like to move things quickly and make them react.
Well, back in the 80s and 90s, there's several of us that actually got into going this time of the year and all the way up till probably the first week or two of September. We got into doing a lot of going after these fish after dark because of increased boat traffic. But nowadays we've got way more boat traffic than we had then. And I'm starting to see more guys that are getting out there going, waiting and going after dark after these fish. And it can be pretty productive, I know, from my experience.
Yeah, absolutely. You take away the fish's sight, and they're forced to just feed based on what they can feel with their lateral line, and, forced to feel by, what they're sensing other than sight. And it's definitely a good tactic, and I think it's a good way to catch the biggest fish in the system.
Some good tips when it comes to that, though. You don't. I used to say I don't try to fish the entire lake. I just pick some of my best spots and concentrate on them. Is that what you find too?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you're going to fish after dark, say you're going to fish till midnight, really you only have 2 hours, 2.5 hours, whatever it is, and I totally agree. Pick a spot, work it thoroughly, work it slow, spend a lot of time fishing through it, very with a fine-tooth comb, because these fish can't see your lure from 10, 12 feet away. You have to land near them, and spend a lot of time, fish it thorough. Move your baits maybe a little slower at night too. I that's one time where, especially muskie fishing, I like the top waters. I like a slow crawling top water at night.
Yeah, it's one of the things I used to use. A lot of creepers at night was one of them that worked really good. And don't overlook bucktails if you keep your rod tip high and just kind of slow roll that bucktail over the top of the weeds or structure.
Yeah, big blade bucktails, top waters, some of your louder crankbaits, anything moving steady and making a lot of noise.
As far as other things, one of the things I'd say is to make sure you kind of organize your boat. You don't want lures laying all over the place and hooks all over the place. But any other things you can tell people if they want to go out and try night fishing, to maybe gear up and set up the equipment or gear?
Having a good headlamp is definitely important. Having your boat lights working. Having a clean boat, like you said, is definitely key. And anything that you want to see, put glow tape on it. So like my foot pedal or my trolling motor head, I'll put a little bit of glow in the dark tape. You can buy it on Amazon, and then you can shine it up with a flashlight between spots and just have that, that dimly glowing glow tape on, anything, whether it's your steering wheel, your trolling motor remote, your trolling motor foot pedal, anything that you want to see.
Yeah, I actually used to put it on top of some of my lures, a small spot of it, or use a glow bead on the leader, just so you can tell when that lure's coming in. But you kind of get a feel for that anyhow.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things too, when it comes to musky fishing, as you're feeling that lure coming in, one of the things I'll do is I'll put a little bead on between my leader and my main line, and I'll reel right until we hit that bead, and then I know to go into my figure eight and I got the right distance.
Yeah, you mentioned
just a big bead.
You mentioned figure eights too, and that's really critically important after dark, because my number one rule always was, whether it's dark water or light conditions, if you can't see the fish, he can't see you, so you better be doing a figure eight for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, folks, we need to take yet another break and hear from even more of the fine sponsors that bring their show to you every week. When we come back, we'll have the second part of that talk we had with Kyle Sorensen, so stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hey folks, come on over to Hayward Ace Hardware and check out the area's largest selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories. We carry top brands like Browning and Sig Sauer, and we have a great selection of the newest and hard-to-find models. We've got a large selection of ammo with more coming in daily. If you need a scope, we carry great brands like Leupold, Hawk, and EOTech, and we'll even mount it and bore-sight it for you too. We even sell suppressors and silencers. And don't forget to check out our Guns of the Week. Huge discounts on a variety of pistols, rifles, and shotguns that change every week. So stop on in to Hayward Ace Hardware, your firearms superstore. Hayward Ace Hardware, Highway 63 North in Hayward, or give us a call at 715-634-8700.
Hayward Animal Hospital is a full-service medical and surgical hospital featuring on-site laboratory, digital and dental x-ray, in-house pharmacy, and online store. Dr. Ostrander has 40 years of experience dealing with illnesses, injuries, surgery, and dentistry. Hayward Animal Hospital offers urgent care appointments and emergency surgery daily. Please call early in the day for these appointments. They open at 8 a.m. Hayward Animal Hospital is located 1 mile east of Hayward on Highway B. Call 715-634-8971.
Big fish stories come to life at the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. The world's largest shrine to freshwater anglers boasts a 4.5-story tall walk-through muskie that's a half a city block long. It's like taking a peek into Granddad's old tackle box with thousands of mounted fish, antique outboard motors, and historical sport fishing artifacts. Stop in and take a chance on our 50-50 cash raffle. You could walk away with a pile of cash. See the big ones that didn't get away at the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame, Highways 27 and B in Hayward. Open daily, including Sundays, through October 31st at 9:30 a.m. Welcome back to the last segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. And folks, we're going to jump right back into the second part of that talk I had with fishing guide Kyle Sorensen. Well, Kyle, we were talking about the musky fishing and stuff out there, and that's going to be, good and getting better as the season goes on here. But so is a lot of the other fishing out there. We'll get into that time. Usually it's around mid-August every year. We'll see what happens this year, but we start to see that cool down and transition toward fall.
Yeah, it's, pretty much everybody in the Northwoods is excited when we get those first cool days. The water starts steaming in the mornings. And temps start dropping and the fish start moving shallow. We're not terribly far away from that. We're not terribly far away, but it's one of the best times of the year.
You bet it is, and then you got to start thinking about getting ready for archery season and everything else. So the old saying, so many things to do and not so much time, I guess.
Oh, isn't that the truth? It is a tough deal. We live a tough life up here when you can't choose whether you want to go bow hunting or go catch a walleye or go musky fish or, you name it, and it's going on in the fall here.
I know, and, trout fishing also is another aspect picking up. I know you'd like to do a little bit of trout fishing too, and you get up on sometimes a big lake and everything else, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been spending a lot of time on Superior lately. That's been incredible as far as lake trout goes. And like you say, throughout September and October here, coming up, we're going to have rainbow trout moving up the rivers, or steelhead, if you want to call them that. We're going to have coho salmon. We're going to have kings. We're going to have brown trout moving up. We've got a lot of migratory trout pushing into these rivers that are going to be more accessible, whether they're coming closer to shore on Lake Superior or whether they're moving up those tributaries, or even on the inland streams. Honestly, a lot of these fish are going to be easier to target.
Yeah, I grew up in southern Minnesota, and the first fishing I did with my grandfather was trout fishing in the little trout streams, and I kind of miss doing that. I haven't got back to doing it yet. I should, but it's a way of getting away from the people and the crowds and everything else. As our lakes now are starting to get pretty crowded out there sometimes.
Yeah, you can definitely beat the crowds by being willing to put a little bit of miles on your boots, and whether you're floating in a boat, whether you're walking in waders, most people are not willing to cover much ground to get to these fish. So you definitely can get away from people, and we've got a lot of miles of river around here that are relatively untouched.
Oh, yeah. And the big thing is everybody seems to want the bigger boats and the electronics and all the fancy gear, but we've got, like you said, and you got the rivers, but you got so many small lakes out there out of the way that are strictly accessible by a small boat or a canoe or something that you got to carry in. And some of those lakes are just fantastic fisheries for things like bass. And I know of a couple even that have muskies in them that hardly anybody ever fishes.
Absolutely. There's some hidden gems out there.
Now, Kyle, you talked about lake trout up on the big lake. You got into doing that deep water jigging, which seems to be the craze up there. Everybody's doing it now. Yeah,
so there's definitely something to be had up there. A lot of our focus is 150 to 200 feet of water, which is, kind of an exciting factor to a lot of the people I take out there. It's just the fact that, one, we're driving over places where it may be 400 or 500 feet of water, and also just how deep we're jigging. The tackle can be somewhat specialized. You don't need to have a whole setup of gear, but it does take some unique tackle just fishing that deeper water.
You just actually look for them on your depth finder or using forward-facing sonar, or what on them?
No, super simple. Your 2D sonar, driving around, and whether you're seeing them on your 2D and jigging them, or whether you're trolling, when you're in deeper water, that 2D sonar is definitely your friend.
And people that haven't been up there, I would be guilty of that. I fished Ashromagan Bay, and I had never been out into the Apostle Islands till I went out with one of my friends who was actually a charter boat captain. And it's amazing how much water's out there, and it's a pretty vast area just in the islands.
Oh, it's, it always amazes me on Lake Superior. A lot of these places look small on the map, but when you start driving between them, it's a big, big lake.
Yeah, it's tremendous fishery up there, too. Well, Kyle, a lot of great information there. I know anybody that wants to get a hold of you for a guide job, and you fish just about everywhere, too. How do they get a hold of you, and how do they follow you on your social media stuff?
SorensenOutdoors.com is the easiest way to get a hold of me. I got a contact info on there. Otherwise, Sorensen Outdoors on Facebook, Instagram. It's pretty much the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Well, Kyle, thank you greatly for talking to me here and for the information for our people on the radio here.
Hey, thanks a bunch.
Yep. Well, folks, we're about out of time for this week's show. I'd like to remind everyone out there that if you miss a show, you can always go to our website at wnoradio.com, and from there you can link through to our podcast. You can also find the show on Spotify and all major podcast channels. And also, if you're looking for information on vacationing and lodging here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau website at haywardlakes.com or the Hayward Area Chamber site at haywardareachamber.com. And lastly, if you'd like more information on hiring a fishing guide when you're up here in the Hayward area, check out our website at wnoradio.com. We've got links to just about all the different guides and a lot of information in there on guides. We're out of time for this week's show, and we'll be back again next week with another interesting show for you. Thanks for listening.
way up in the Northland where the recreation's great. So sit back, relax, kick off your shoes, sink in your easy chair. Come on along, listen with me, I'm gonna take you there to our Wisconsin Outdoors, our Wisconsin Outdoors.
This program has been produced and hosted entirely by Wisconsin Northland Outdoor Communications.